A mental health professional once said to me, "Just stop buying 2 newspapers a day," as if that simple advice was going to be a solution to my decades-long problem. I am a person with hoarding behaviour and I feel the urge to buy and keep newspapers. Hoarding is a huge problem in our society, affecting around 1.4 million people in the UK alone. Yet it's largely hidden from view and, as in my case, it can ruin lives, relationships, and your sense of self. My life stopped in 1999 when I lost 2 children. One child in a miscarriage and another to a cot death. I blamed myself. These unimaginable losses, compounded by an earlier traumatic experience, suddenly made it impossible to function. At first, I could not let go of my children's clothes, milk bottles, everything they had touched. Then, I began to buy newspapers and magazines, obsessively searching for articles about babies who had passed away, trying to understand why these bad things happened and to accept that I was not immune. Eventually, my world got smaller and smaller. Although it felt like a safe nest, I was confined to a square of space in my house, surrounded mainly by stacks of newspapers and magazines. And for all the feeling of safety that hoarding gave me, it took away so much more. I isolated myself from those close to me, my husband, my other children and friends. I stopped inviting people over, always making excuses. Most of my house was inaccessible. I lived off sandwich meal deals and canned drinks. My house had also become a fire hazard, endangering not only me, but potentially my neighbours. The thing to remember is that no one wants to live like this. I tried to seek help, but most professionals didn't have enough awareness or experience with this behaviour. Housing authorities regularly sent officers over to help clear up my house, but as well-intentioned as these interventions often were, they only magnified my shame. As soon as I touched some of the items, I felt the need to retell my story, which was incredibly painful. It wasn't until I finally received the right support that I came to realise that all this stuff is my trauma, and I understood why clear-ups were so triggering and why they're not a solution to the hoarding problem. Only about 5% of people with hoarding behaviour ask for help, often because of shame. Other times, people simply don't realise they have a problem or lose sight of just how negatively this impacts their lives. For many years, I felt too vulnerable and ashamed to seek help again, until I faced eviction. And at that time, I thought it was the worst thing that could have happened, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I met a wonderful team of people who worked tirelessly to understand this behaviour and raise awareness about it. For the first time in my life, I felt like someone was on my side. I started to attend group support sessions where I realised that I wasn't the only person in the world who hoarded. Some of the shame I carried had been lifted. And with time, I was able to start letting go of some of the things I held on to for so long. I threw a lot away and kept some in storage. Small steps. Simple pleasures mean so much to me now. A hot cup of tea with buttery toast in the morning. Being able to keep my favourite ice cream in my freezer, which I can now access. Hoarding is often associated with older people, but in truth it doesn't discriminate. It can affect anyone. Over 90% of people who hoard have at least one other condition, such as obsessive-compulsive disorder or bipolar disorder. I have been diagnosed with OCD and post-traumatic stress disorder. If you're worried about your own behaviour, there are support groups that can help. For me, it was starting small, working on sorting and throwing things away 15 minutes at a time. Otherwise, it was too overwhelming. Imagine stacks of newspapers that you need to comb through. It's hard to know where to start. If you're wondering how to broach the subject with someone you're concerned about, you can use a hoarding clutter scale, designed to compare someone's home with a series of images to help start the conversation. Always include a person in every decision and offer a choice, so change doesn't feel like something that is done to them. How we talk about hoarding matters hugely. I don't say, "I'm a hoarder." This can be a very stigmatising word, when in fact, hoarding is not something that defines me. What it actually is a coping mechanism, and need to protect myself from the world. I hope that one day everyone will be able to see past the behaviour and understand that people who hoard are not lazy or dirty, but rather deeply wounded human beings who need support and understanding.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, be sure to check out these videos next. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to get a notification each time we upload a new video.